Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Men for Life podcast. I'm Sean Corcoran, the CEO of Men for Life. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Lauren Muzyka, the president and CEO of Sidewalk Advocates for Life. Hey, Lauren, how are you today?
I'm great. Good to be with you, Sean.
Well, thank you for joining me. Can you tell us, to start off, what is Sidewalk Advocates for Life?
Yeah. Well, Sidewalk Advocates for Life is America's largest sidewalk outreach organization. And what I tell people is that we train, equip, and support people just like you who have a heart to go to the darkest places in their communities, the local abortion or abortion referral center, and offer loving, life affirming alternatives. And truly, as people of faith and conscience have decided to stand up and show up and be outside of these places in a spirit of peace, prayer, and love, we have seen nothing less than the miraculous. We've been around now for about 11 years, providing a comprehensive training, tools, and support program. And in those 11 years, the Lord has saved more than 25,000 babies from abortion. That's because, again, somebody like you and me showed up just to have a conversation, just to let people know that they have options and resources. The blessing is that when we're not reaching out to clients, then we're reaching out to the workers, right? So maybe a mom goes in or a dad goes into the abortion facility. We interface with them briefly. And then we turn our attention to maybe the abortion center escort or a worker who comes out to even yell at us, right? And tell us to get off the public right of way and we're hurting their business or whatever it might be. And just, again, in that spirit of peace, prayer, and love, offering them a way out of the industry to get connected to. And then there were none. That's the name of the famous abortion worker ministry that we partner with. And then there were none abortion worker ministry at abortionworker.com. And, we've now helped over 105 abortion facility workers leave the business and find hope and healing in Christ. And then the great news is, when you're hitting the demand side of abortion businesses and the supply side. So you help enough clients, you turn them away to the local, get connected to the local life affirming pregnancy center, help enough workers, help them get connected to abortionworker.com. It is hard for abortion businesses to stay open. And so, we've helped to close over 70 facilities now in America. And so, yes, to God the glory. It's such an adventure. And more and more people are saying yes to the mission on the sidewalk. There's no greater thing, truly.
Is there Sidewalk Advocates for Life? Is there a presence everywhere that there is an abortion clinic?
Just about. I mean, and I say that a little bit more loosely. So we're at in front of about a third of facilities, right? So when you look at the map, it feels like we're everywhere, right? You can see those dots on the map. You can go to our locations tab on our website and see everywhere that we have a presence. But the hard part is, excuse me, there's 765 abortion facilities here in post-Roe America. And then in our pro-life states, we still have a presence on the ground. The abortion industry is still there in the form of abortion referral facilities. So we're also trying to grow and cover that. So so we're in front of about a third of facilities, and our goal is that there would be no uncovered facility in the United States and beyond. We actually started to grow internationally. We've even got a presence in Colombia and Mexico City, right? And so, we're open to seeing where God takes all of this.
How long have you been with Sidewalk Advocates for Life?
So I'm the founder. I've been doing this now for almost 12 years. Of course, you get something started and it takes a few months before it gets off the ground. So I'm the longest running teammate over here. Just had the privilege of really receiving this idea and vision in prayer. I used to be a sidewalk counselor myself in college. I was trained under the interdenominational Brazos Valley Coalition for Life in college. They brought in a beautiful Baptist woman from Georgia named Karen Black, who trained a bunch of us college students who would go out and pray at the local Planned Parenthood abortion facility. This also happened to be former Planned Parenthood director Abby Johnson's facility, right? She started as an escort. She rose through the ranks of Planned Parenthood, eventually took over as the director, and then left because of peace, prayer, and love, and people reaching out to her. She's now this, international pro-life speaker and advocate. So I was trained in college and really saw the transformative nature of prayer and sidewalk outreach, sidewalk counseling. And then later was even trained by famous sidewalk counseling priest Monsignor Riley out of New York. I was a full-time staff sidewalk counselor with the Dallas Diocese the summer before I went to law school, in the fall when I came back. And then here I was thinking that I was going to be a pro-life litigator or lobbyist, that I would actually use those legal skills, in the culture battle. And then went to work instead for 40 Days for Life Nationals, or campaign strategist. I advised the 200 plus prayer campaigns in North America. And then at one point saw need and felt the call to start Sidewalk Advocates for Life. And so the founder, David B. Wright, who was there at the time, has since moved on to another venture. I had his blessing to leave and to look at forming this, that, 40 Days for Life had really created this beautiful culture of prayer and outreach and light and love, 40-day campaigns, prayer campaigns outside of abortion businesses, and seen so many miracles. But what we noticed was there needed to be a streamlined program for people who wanted to learn how to reach out with their words. And so David had said to me, if you feel called to do this, you have to do it outside of 40 Days for Life. I feel like my calling is to make this prayer presence as strong as it possibly can be. And so anyways, took a leap of faith, left the 40 Days for Life national team, and not too long afterwards founded and launched Sidewalk Advocates for Life. So here we are. Yeah.
And so if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, one of the main differences between 40 Days for Life, who also has a presence outside of many abortion clinics, and Sidewalk Advocates for Life, is the silent prayer versus the outspoken outreach. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And, they have a small little primer for people just when they encounter people, what to say if a woman comes towards them, or if they want to, plant a seed as she's going in. But their bread and butter is the foundational prayer on the sidewalk, building a 40-day prayer presence. And even then they've come up with a 365 program, right? And in our case, it's kind of like the same way in reverse. Like, we're the experts in reaching out with your words, although prayer is the foundation, of course, of all that we do. I would say about 65% of our sites we share with 40 Days for Life. And it really is just this beautiful partnership, this combination of prayer and work, or at Labora, and the beautiful thing is that we need both. We really need both. Now, there are some sites where there isn't a 40 Days for Life campaign. And of course, our Sidewalk Advocates always start with prayer, and they're bathing every situation out there in prayer. Prayer changes things. With God, all things are possible. And apart from him, we can do nothing. Right. And that's a really heavy thought if you think about it. We need prayer. You plus God equals unstoppable. And so we go out there and we put ourselves at his disposal, and we ask that he work through us. And that's where we see the miracles. Is prayer does change things. But at the same time, faith without works is dead. And so there are going to be some who are called to reach out with their words and let people know concretely the help that's available to them in their local community and beyond, right? We have to be there as the hands and feet of Jesus. And truly, there's no greater mission field today than the sidewalk in front of your local abortion or abortion referral center.
Yeah. And, and so you mentioned the abortion workers and the impact that Sidewalk Advocates for Life, along with And Then There Were None, have had in converting 105 abortion workers. And through that outreach, what about with the people who are coming for an abortion? What are those interactions like? Is it primarily women coming by themselves? Is it couples? I'm just curious what we're looking at
I see.
when you're out there on the sidewalk.
Yeah. Nowadays, we typically see the woman come with somebody, right? Because maybe the abortion facility has told her, hey, you're not going to be able to drive afterwards, you're going to be under some anesthesia or coming out of it. She will a lot of times come with a partner, with a boyfriend, or with a friend or her mom. Once in a while you see an extended family member, a grandfather. You see both parents go in, right? typically the woman is there with somebody. And those companions are really, really important too, because sometimes what we see is that the woman isn't ready to talk. She'll make a beeline into the facility, and then boyfriend comes out to the porch, lights up a cigarette, and we let him have a couple puffs. And then we start in on that offer of help. Sometimes it can be in the reverse, but typically we find that the companion is ever more so open to dialogue with a
Yeah.
sidewalk advocate, because again, they may not be the one who's primarily in crisis, although they can be heated because they're the protector, right? They see themselves as having a role that day. And so again, we just start in with love and with that offer of help, with options. And again, there are women, absolutely, obviously, that are open to conversation right away. And then boyfriend may just be listening, the companion is listening. A lot of times after a while, you'll figure out kind of who's running the show, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it may be like a slightly different tenor of dialogue, always peaceful, always loving, but you start to kind of figure out the dynamic after a little bit and just try to really meet that person where they are and offer hope and help.
Well, and just to clarify, because the abortion industry will tell you that this is all about choice, right? And it's all about the woman's choice. When you say, who's really in control of the situation, are you suggesting that there are some times that the woman may not be the one who is making the choice?
100%. I mean, I've been in front of abortion facilities for more than 20 years, and I will tell you that there usually is some element of pressure or coercion, and it can be in part through circumstance. But I have actually witnessed a mother grab her daughter by the hair and drag her into the abortion facility with that woman kicking and screaming. Do we call the police? Absolutely, right? Nobody
Yeah.
can be forced to have an abortion. We've watched body language at the abortion facility where a boyfriend is grabbing her by the hand and pulling her inside. Right. So you observe a lot of interesting dynamics with couples, with families at the abortion facility, and usually can figure it out. But I would say, at the very least, every single woman who's walking in there, somewhere deep in her heart, she doesn't want to do it. She just doesn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
She's overwhelmed by her perceived crisis, by her circumstance. And yes, that may not be a good reason, of course, to take the life of an innocent child. But you wouldn't believe how much these women are lied to, are pushed, are coerced at times. And they're often arriving at the abortion facility in a world of chaos and confusion. I tell people I might maybe have counted on one or two hands the number of times that I really felt like somebody knew exactly what they were doing. They didn't care, and come hell or high water, they were going to go in there. But after talking to hundreds, maybe thousands, honestly, Sean, at this point, I can tell you that people are in crisis and they're hurting when they're at the abortion facility, and that we've got a window of opportunity to reach their hearts before they make that decision.
So when you engage in these
Mhm.
conversations, do you? It, let me figure out how to ask this. But if you get the sense that that there is coercion involved, and that and let's just put it in the frame of what you're calling a companion, but it will say boyfriend, right? Male, whatever, partner, the
Mhm.
father of the baby. Okay. Um, and you sense there's coercion. Um, how do you approach that conversation?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we go in. I mean, first of all, if it's blatant, then we can call the police, right? So
Right.
you notice that she's actually physically being dragged in there. We don't hesitate. We call the police. No one by law can be forced to have an abortion. And sometimes we have to contact the Center Against Forced Abortion out of San Antonio, associated with the Justice Foundation. And they can even fax a letter into the abortion facility saying, we've been made aware of a situation of coercion. And just so you know, it is illegal to perform an abortion on somebody who's being coerced. We have absolutely done that before, several times.
Has that or calling law enforcement ever, to your knowledge, stopped the abortion procedure from happening?
Yeah. We have been in situations where usually it's a minor where that's the case. And we know of a couple situations where it did absolutely halt the abortion. There were other times that it was hard to figure out exactly what the result was because then everything was being handled inside the abortion
Right.
facility, right? But the good news is I know that we did our part by making that phone call, by getting that
Yeah.
information in front of them. Now, the other scenario that you've referenced is where it's less obvious. And we get the sense that there's great pressure that's been put on her to go through with an abortion. And in that case, sometimes we're even splitting up. Like one partner, one sidewalk advocate is talking to the boyfriend, the spouse, whoever it is that really wants the abortion to happen and really just, in a sense, ministering to them. And let's say I might be talking to the mom and saying, you don't have to do this. Your heart in this matters. There is help and hope available to you. And we're just pouring into people, right? Trying to get them to slow down a little bit, trying to get them to see that it's going to cause them pain and it's not worth it. And that there is an answer to their crisis and their situation. And so we just kind of do our best to work within those people dynamics. Now, again, if it becomes clear at any point that there is literal coercion going on, then, we can go ahead and make a phone call. But usually it's just a lot of people dynamics that we're working within and just really trying to plant some encouraging seeds in the right direction. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So moving into where mom and dad go into the abortion facility, and then dad comes back out. Are there instances? I'm going to back up a little. Are there instances where dad is not even allowed in?
A lot of times the abortion facility will initially let him in, right? But if they get wind that he's been talking to us, and again, that in and of itself necessarily wouldn't, have them throw up the door and say you can't come back in. But if he goes in guns a-blazing, and I mean that metaphorically, of course,
Yeah.
right? And he's starting to stir stuff up, they might ask him to step outside. For the most part, the partner is allowed in. Now, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll say, first off, obviously, you have to stay in the waiting room. They will not allow her to have a cell phone back there. So he typically is holding on to her purse and her cell phone. And there's even times that some abortion facilities say you have to put it out in your car. This is actually something that I want to say started, a good number of years ago. Wasn't always the case with the history of abortion in America. People started to get wind, workers started to get wind that when there was a cell phone line of connection to that woman, a lot of women were being turned around because maybe the partner then was calling or texting her saying, don't do it. Or, he was going in and giving her a lot of information from the sidewalk advocate. So what we do is we coach him to go back inside and asked to speak with her. Now, women usually are waiting a good number of hours before their abortion appointment. So usually when he goes back inside, he can just sit next to her in the waiting room, give her all the information, and possibly encourage her to come back out and to talk to us, right? And that's what we're doing is we're using him as an advocate for life, encouraging him to be the protector and defender of life, of his family, right? We've got to win him first. So once we win him over, we can give him the information and he can take it inside. If she's already back there, a lot of times we're encouraging him to go in and say, it's a family emergency. I need to speak with her right away. And again, some abortion facilities will allow the cell phone to be back there. We've seen babies saved through cell phone texts, right? Because
Yeah.
he's saying, I'm out here talking to the sidewalk advocate or however they're designating us that morning, right? And they're saying next door down the street, there's all this help available. Let's consider it. And sometimes we got to send him in there multiple times. Rarely does a man go in one time and she comes out. It's usually a couple or a few. And then she realizes he's serious. He's going to stand by her. He wants this too. And it really encourages her to come back out. Now, the tough ones are where the man goes in and, we're not seeing her respond well. And then it's really just giving him support. And, what I've told men in that case is that you will never regret trying again and again, right up until the procedure happens. And I'm proud of you. You're doing the right thing. We're praying for you, right? We've prayed over, I can't even tell you how many times I've prayed with or over men at the abortion facility. And I'll just say, go back in there and try again, go back in there and try again. You have the peace of knowing then you did everything that you could. I think, there's some sidewalk counselors. This is not us at Sidewalk Advocates for Life, obviously, or any of the ministries we partner with, but there are some groups that their MO on the sidewalk with boyfriends or men is to just rail against them and say, you've got blood on your hands, and tell them everything that they're doing wrong. And how dare you bring her here in the first place? And yes, you could make the argument that he should have never driven the car to that abortion facility. Maybe he didn't know what to do. He was trying to be a support to her in his mind, right? It, again, right or wrong. I mean, it's wrong, but you
Yeah.
know, that battle's over. Now what I need to do is I need to build him up and encourage him to go in there and to do the right thing.
Right.
And that has much more of a chance of success than being ugly to someone on the sidewalk. So
Yeah, I think. I
maybe
mean,
goes without saying.
well, I mean, it obviously doesn't, because there are people doing that, right? And
Yeah.
and it's not just towards the men. I know that there are people that go on the sidewalks and they'll scream. Still, this is an antiquated way to look at pro-life, but there are people who still stand on the sidewalks and yell baby murder, and
Yeah.
things like that. And I would say that's not helpful, because what we know is that the people who are showing up there are broken in some sense, right?
Yeah.
And if you take someone who's already broken, meaning that they are already feeling negative emotions, and
Yeah.
then you attack them, that's just going to push them away.
Right.
It's going to
Right.
drive them deeper into those negative emotions. I think there's a difference between many times in my messaging to men, is calling the masculinity out of them.
Yeah.
um, you know, I think there's a difference when, in what position is the man in when you're
Right.
doing that? Are they in a position of introspection, um, where, I don't want to be that kind of man? Or are they in a position where they already feel that, and you're just like driving something home that is pushing them deeper into those negative emotions? And I just, I think that I think it's tough to balance, but I think there's a level of empathy,
Yeah.
and empathy, not with the decision to choose abortion, but with the
Right.
humanity of the person who is standing before you. And
Yeah.
I think that is, I think that that's hard. But I would agree with you, without having
Yeah.
ever done it. I would agree with you from the outside that seeing one way to message versus seeing the other way to message, I can look at it objectively and say, hey, like, this one has a better chance of success than
100%.
yelling
Yeah.
at someone, all the negative things you think about them, because that's just going to make them hate you.
Right.
And
Right.
why would I want to do what you tell me to do? Because
Yeah.
you're not a nice person. So
Right.
so that's interesting that still goes on, and it's unfortunate, but how great that you guys are on the sidewalk, standing in contrast to that.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
you had conversations with men, and I guess this would be typical for the men who go back in, and try to convince, whether they're successful or not, the mom to come back out and talk to you, or to seek out the other options that you talked about, the pregnancy centers. Um, that How did they get to that point? Is it usually something to the degree of, well, it's her choice, and that's just where their mind is,
Yeah.
that the reason that I'm not in there fighting for this child is because it's not my choice. It's her body. Is that the underlying theme to how men have gotten to this position of standing outside of an abortion clinic when they don't necessarily want to be there?
Right. No, that's exactly it, Sean. I think that the culture and that mom maybe at times has demasculinized him, like tried to push down, explain away his natural God given role to step up and to defend and protect. Right. And so a lot of times what we hear at the abortion facility is, well, she's already made up her mind. It's her body. It's her choice. I'm just here supporting her. Right. And they're thinking now they're kind of relegated to this position of just having to support her almost no matter what she chooses. And of course, we know, just as people of faith and conscience, that we can still love somebody and support somebody and not be okay with what they're doing or encourage them to make a different decision. Right.
Right.
I think these men are trying so hard to navigate this and they don't know how to sort all this out. And so when we come in and we're speaking to that natural God-given instinct to defend and protect, when we remind them that they have a voice and a say too. In fact, if she has asked him to be with her, then at that moment, he's the most important person in her life, right?
Yeah.
And so he has an opportunity now to go in and to tip the scales. And sometimes I would say a good number of times it does tip the scales. Companions are very effective in helping a woman to turn around. And they're not going to usually go in and be ugly or whatever. They usually just go in and present the information and just keep affirming, I'm going to do this with you. I'm going to stand by you. I'm going to. And then in other cases, it's tough. It's tough to tip the scales because she really is running the show, and she is in so much crisis she can't see a way forward despite what he says. Once in a while you do get a dad who is just in such a world of his own chaos and confusion that it's hard to get him to move that direction. Like
Yeah.
I still remember, this is like the summer of 2006, right before I started law school, and I was in front of a Dallas abortion facility, and there was this guy, I'll just call him Junior. And um, I still remember talking to him. He was kind of pushing me away at first. And those are always tough situations when you get pushed away because you're discerning. How do I open up dialogue? When do I let go? When do I step forward? Sometimes you can kind of prime the pump. You can kind of plant seeds and see if you can get kind of something going. Again, this is a matter of life and death, so it's worth a try. You just try really hard to find a human balance and all that, just like with anybody else in your life who's shut down or who's struggling. And I still remember at one point he started to talk to me and he said, so he's saying this while he's choking back sobs. And he said, we have a lifestyle that doesn't permit us to have 3 kids. So he's crying saying this, right? So this is baby number 3 who didn't make the cut. And probably what happened is, I'm guessing either she put her foot down or he did, and now he's regretting it, or who knows how the quote unquote decision was made, right? And I just at one point looked at him and I said, you know what I think? I think you should go back in there, put your arm around your wife and say, what is this worth? We make beautiful children, right? And he's even saying, like, I know if we do this, I know I'm going to wake up and hate myself the next morning. And I'm
Yeah.
just pouring into him and encouraging him and encouraging him. And it just broke my heart because his feet were like lead. I don't know what else was part of his story where it was hard for him to get moving and to just really embrace a new way. And those are tough. Those are really, really tough. In another instance, I had a dad who was so encouraged by our conversation. He went into the Louisville, Kentucky abortion facility. So this was just prior to Roe being overturned. And she was there with her mom, who I was pretty sure was also running the show. And he came back out and he was he couldn't even look at me. He went right past me. He went straight to his car, grabbed a golf club. And I literally had the thought, great, I'm going to die of blunt force trauma here at the Louisville, Kentucky abortion facility. I just gave the guy options and encouraged him. What's going to happen next? I was like, hey, dude, I'll give you space. It's okay. Well, he wasn't trying to hurt me. He was so just dejected he made this beautiful offer of help to his girlfriend and she said no. And he took that club and he beat the side of a tree. I watched him beat the side of a tree. But what I was really proud of is we had a male advocate there, my friend Jeff, who actually died a couple years ago, good man. And he was there as a support to our ministry. And I said, Jeff, he needs a man. Can you go slip abortion pill reversal in his hands? And so Jeff found a window to just say, hey, man, I know she's taking the first abortion pill. There is a way to reverse it. So tonight, when you're with her and mom is out of the picture, right? Her mom's not there pressuring her over her shoulder, do this, do this, do this.
Right.
Um, you have a window, to just slip this to her and say, hey, let's consider this. And a lot of babies have been saved that way too, with
Yeah.
abortion pill reversal. So, anyways, those are some of the tougher ones that I remember on the sidewalk. Those are hard. I'm an oldest sister of brothers, and just to see men have a hard time, it's hard for me. But I use all that big sisterness in me to just really do my best to encourage them. And nothing's ever lost this side or the next side of heaven, right? Everything matters and echoes in eternity. And I know those moments of love and encouragement, whether they bore fruit here or they're going to bear fruit later, I believe God is working. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
You bring up Jeff, taking that opportunity to talk to that young man at a point where he clearly needed a man's voice.
Mhm.
How would you say demographically, what is the average Sidewalk Advocates for Life group look like as far as men and women?
Yeah. I would say at this point, and I'm going to make a rough guesstimate. In fairness, I haven't sat down to count, but probably 2/3 women, 1/3 men. We've got
Yeah.
a lot of men involved with us. Naturally, women can be attracted to this,
Right.
especially if they have an abortion experience in their past. They've worked in the pregnancy help movement. I mean, again, we just have women if they don't have a testimony, but they just love life and they love women and family, and they're excited to be out there to affect change. And then you've got these incredible men that just for different reasons, they either have a story or they just care, which is
Right.
awesome. So definitely more women tend to be involved. But I'm telling you, Sean, to me, it's a game changer when a man is out on the sidewalk.
Yeah. Tell me
It
why,
really is.
because that goes into my next questions.
Yeah. Yeah. So number one, just baseline, the female advocates feel more safe.
Yeah.
When I'm out there with a man, even though what we do at Sidewalk Advocates for Life is always peaceful, prayerful, loving, and law abiding, naturally the emotional temperature is elevated at an abortion facility, and there could be somebody who shouts you down or gives you the finger or whatever it is. Right? We get persecuted out there. Yes, for the most part, it can be very peaceful generally. But just having a man out there, it provides a level of security and confidence that I feel like helps me to up my game when I'm out there. And then the second thing is just like women have a natural camaraderie with women, men have a camaraderie with men that I just cannot duplicate. Now, I believe in the scripture where it says, when you ask for something or you need something, believe that you have it already. If there's just two of us females out there and we got a lot of guys to talk to, we say, okay, Holy Spirit. That's where I'm, flipping my blonde hair over my shoulder and I'm a big sister,
Yeah.
And so I mean that with the most respect that I could possibly say it. But we go out there as sisters, as cheerleaders, as encouragers, to the men. And especially having grown up with brothers, I think I'm pretty dang good at connecting with guys out there. But it's just hard to think like with that dad at the Louisville, Kentucky abortion facility. I think Jeff did something I couldn't do
Yeah.
at that critical moment. God used Jeff in a powerful way. And when Jeff passed away and I went to his memorial service, I was able to share that story about the spiritual father that he was in that moment, to both that child and so many, at the abortion facility. And so, yeah, it's just men are so important. And I would even say with the women, like there are so many women, they feel left by the men in their lives. Maybe dad wasn't there for them, boyfriend isn't really standing by them, right? And there are some women that just really appreciate a strong man out there to be kind and tender with them and let them know of their options and resources. I mean, really, God uses all of us in our unique gifts and talents and background and education and training and just who we are, right?
Right.
So don't ever feel like you go out there and you're just at a loss or you're already, it's already an uphill battle. But, you know, a lot of times if I have a guy out there, I'll let my male advocates talk to him first,
Right.
usually before I start in. Or I might start just because I'm right near the guy. And then I bring in a male advocate to kind of follow up. And that can be very helpful and effective.
Yeah. And I mean, if we know that, and we know that the number one influence in mom's decision to choose abortion or life is the father of the child. And that men connect with men,
Hmm.
then there's a huge need, and an amazing impact that can be had by men on the sidewalk.
Hmm.
Is just, and that's me looking at it from the outside, just looking at the logical progression of the argument, right?
Hmm.
That that if this person is the most influential, and generally men connect better with men, then having a man out there, to connect with him can help to, kind of in contrast to what you were saying earlier about telling people that about um, the bad sidewalk counselors. I don't want
Yeah.
to call them bad sidewalk counselors, but the people who do it differently, the aggressive sidewalk counselors,
There you go.
that
Yeah.
that the blood is on your hands and all this stuff. Having a man to connect with, to say, hey, what are you thinking about this? Because deep down we all have this innate desire to protect, to provide, to lead, and to serve, right? Like, it's just
Yeah.
built into who we are. And it doesn't matter that our life circumstances or society in general may have tried to beat it out of us for the majority of our life. It's still there. And so
Right.
having a man to connect with and say, and kind of pull to that, right? Pull to the heart of that, rather than scream to the negative parts of
Right.
it. I think could be incredibly beneficial to saying, this is, if this is important to you, it's your role, right? It's your
Yeah.
role to go in there, and this is what God created you for, to
Right.
go in there and protect not only that baby, protect that mom. Like
100%.
there's something nefarious going on if they are scared. They're all about choice, but they're scared to let mom have a cell phone because
Mhm.
she might change her choice, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they're not. It's not really about choice when the choice is only one thing, and
Right.
um, and it's that thing that you offer. And once someone has said, "I want that thing that you offer," you remove any ability they have to communicate with anyone who may give them information that would help them to change that choice. Like, that's no longer about choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we know that, like, we know that it's a huge moneymaker, you know. Um,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
unlike the pregnancy centers, who make no money from the clients that come in. They just operate off of donations. So it's
Right. Right.
I don't know. It's just a crazy world. Like, that this is something that we're even talking about. You know.
Right. Right.
I mean, it really is, and it's really unfortunate. But I will tell you that when I speak, there's always a call to action to men to do more than the way I put it, is to sit back and write checks to fund a war that we send women off to fight. And
Ooh.
and then I always have men come up to me afterwards and say, yes, like, I want to do more. What can I do?
Yeah.
And and I send them two places. I send them to their local pregnancy centers, because we know that through fatherhood programs, we can save the lives of those babies, and that the pregnancy centers need men to facilitate the fatherhood programs. And then I send them to Sidewalk Advocacy,
Mm.
um, because those are the two places that I know offhand that a male presence can have a huge impact. So my question to you is, what about in states where there are no abortion facilities?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
We have
and tell
to.
me, let me back
Yeah.
up a little.
Yeah.
You
Sure.
mentioned abortion referral clinics, I think
Right.
is what you called it. Um, and just to be completely honest, I'm not familiar.
Yeah.
I think I can draw a conclusion that these are facilities that do not offer abortions. However, they offer you information on abortions, and they refer you to an abortion facility.
Right. So
So do
we've
they still
still
have
got.
those in Texas?
They do. So we
Okay.
still have these Planned Parenthood, quote unquote, family planning centers that are on the ground. And they're like heads of the dragon that are referring to the next nearest abortion facility across state lines, right?
Gotcha.
So what happens is women arrive there and the pregnancy test turned positive, or maybe they're seeking a pregnancy test there, and then they can get a referral to another Planned Parenthood across state lines, right?
Okay.
So we've got a ton of them here still in Dallas, Fort Worth, where I live. I mean, they're all over our pro-life states. Now, some of them are shutting down because it's hard to stay open just doing referrals. Now, a lot of times Planned Parenthoods specifically do an array of so-called services, super low level menu of woman services. What they typically do at abortion referral facilities is a well woman exam, breast exam, although they have no mammogram machines, can't treat the issue, right? STD, STI testing, birth control, and then sometimes have super basic health screenings. Like I've been at referral facilities in California that screen for asthma and diabetes, right? And
Okay.
probably in an effort to look more like a reputable health clinic. Planned Parenthood has super, super low levels of, providing these services. I think every year that their annual report comes out, less and less women are using these. And then we've got federally qualified health centers, other community health organizations, much less real health clinics, right? Doctors who are, for example, general practitioners and all that, that can do so much, do everything a Planned Parenthood facility does and so much more. So our kind of MO in front of these facilities is, if it's not a morally problematic service, then we'll refer elsewhere. So usually we're referring women down the street for a cheaper, better well woman exam, breast exam, STD, STI testing. And then we do encounter, of course, then women who are considering abortion at these facilities, and we're able to send them on to their local pregnancy center. And I'll tell you, saves, right, or turnarounds are so much easier in front of these facilities, because we say to them, hey, before you go 300 or 600 miles away, why not try the services at the pregnancy center? And then you get her holistic options counseling, where they actually give her all three of her so-called choices. I mean, they're not presenting abortion. She's been in an abortion
Right.
facility, so they're presenting to her parenting and adoption. But they're doing it also in truth in front of a sonogram, where she actually has time to look at her baby and see her baby's heartbeat and see baby moving around. And they say as many as 9 out of 10, when they experience that, will choose life,
Yeah.
will choose to choose life themselves, right? I love how, whenever we post something on the Sidewalk Advocates for Life Facebook page, or Instagram, whatever, get so many people who are like, you're forcing her to make a different decision. You're shaming her. We said, no, we didn't. All we did was give her the facts, give her
Right.
her options, because 97.1% of all women who are darkening the doors of a Planned Parenthood are getting an abortion. I
Right.
mean, you can't tell me that if almost 100% of the women who enter a Planned Parenthood are choosing one choice, then we are the ones who are giving them a real choice.
Right. And that's so important, because you're not pro-choice if you refuse to acknowledge that other choices exist, or
Right.
you try to keep people from receiving information about those choices. Like if you want to be pro-choice, I mean, I think you're wrong, because the only choice is abortion. But
Mm.
but if that's where you are, then at least be morally consistent, and logically
Right.
consistent in, that I am okay with this person making the most informed choice possible by ensuring that they have all the information about all the options, and then going and making that choice. And I think that that's not where pro-choice people fall, in general. I think that I don't really care what they want to be called. I've just started using the term pro-abortion because I think that, like I said, like, the only choice that you're talking about is the choice to kill a child.
Right.
It's not, that's what you're supporting when you call yourself
Right.
pro-choice. So anyway,
And they don't make money off of the other choices, right? Like,
right.
I forgot how many it is, but I mean, we're talking hundreds of abortions over any adoption referral. And we hear in super limited cases where Planned Parenthood actually took the time to refer someone to an adoption agency. It almost never happens. And I say this
Right.
again, over 20 years of experience on the sidewalk, and they sure as heck don't make money if a woman parents. You can't get diapers or formula or any sort of support. I mean, for an entity that calls itself Planned Parenthood, they
Yeah.
don't do any sort of parenthood support. They only
Right.
give you one choice. They are America's abortion empire. Period. End of story.
Yeah. And
So,
again, that's in contrast to the pregnancy centers who make no money no matter what the choice is, right?
right,
Like if you choose I mean, like this is the purpose. So I'm not saying this as it's a negative thing, but if you go to a pregnancy center and you choose life, it's going to cost the pregnancy center money
yeah,
because there's going to be parenting classes offered. There's going to be diapers and formula and clothes and and baby supplies, many times strollers and maternity homes. Like it comes at a cost that we want to give, right? Because
right,
that comes from the heart for life. But like they're not making any money based on choices that you make. There's no
right,
profit in pregnancy centers.
right, right.
Um,
Absolutely.
so
Yep.
what do you think, back to the men, what do you think, what message do you have for men who believe there is no place for them in the pro-life movement other than showing up to fundraisers and marches?
Well, first off, I just want to apologize to the men on behalf of women. It may not be my fault per se, but I hate how society and the culture has tried to silence your voice because you are half this battle at the very least. Every child we've ever known has had both what? A mother and a father. Many of the babies that are losing their lives are little boys, right? This is affecting family and culture and our very future, the fabric of this nation. And, as protectors and defenders of the human family, of life, and of the church, you absolutely are needed and you have a voice in this. And I think that many men, maybe because of their own experience, have been silenced by a woman in their lives. And again, just on behalf of women, I'm so sorry. And we need to have respect. We need to have respect for the men that are called. I mean, that's every man, but these men that are so important to the human family and to society, we women need to step aside and admire the burden that you all carry as men, because you do. And it's something inside of you that says, I need to step up and I need to be a part of this and I need to do something. And I really appreciate the checks that are written. I know that there are men in our ministry, for example, that because of their particular vocation or station in life, they just can't get to the sidewalk. Their work doesn't allow them all the time, right? But where you can spend some time getting your hands dirty, we need you, right? So whether it be the sidewalk or even the hour before you go into work, praying at a 40 Days for Life campaign and letting God use those prayers, right? Even just your mere presence on the sidewalk, it turns people around. As someone who worked in both 40 Days for Life now and Sidewalk Advocates for Life, it's incredibly effective. Um, and then, there are other facets of the pro life movement that you can work in. Like, okay, so maybe you don't go to an abortion facility right away. There's fatherhood programs at your local pregnancy center where men are talking to men. Have you thought about that? Are there other educational opportunities that you can bring into your parish or your church? There's so many things that you can do. And so thank you for writing the check. Thank you in that sense for providing for the greatest human rights movement on earth. But recognize that this is not just a woman's battle. I understand it affects us uniquely because we're the ones who are carrying the children. But again, men were involved in that process. And men are part of the human family. And this is a family issue. This is a life issue, and it touches both women and men, and we need you. So don't let anybody tell you that you don't have a voice in this. And if they tell you you don't have a uterus and you need to sit down and shut up, you have my permission to respectfully push back and to say, you know what? I've been affected by abortion, because you have in some form or another. We all have, right?
Right.
And I care about women and men and families. And you have an opportunity to tip the scales there. I think so many men, when they're confronted by a woman, especially a loud feminist, they're tempted to just shut up and just
Yeah.
take it. And I think that there's a window of opportunity there just to step in and to push back respectfully.
Right.
The narrative won't change if you don't do that. And so
Yeah.
at very least, I'm giving you permission to do that.
And
Yeah.
I think in a lot of cases, it's not even about just taking it as much as it is about, good men not taking that stuff seriously,
Yeah.
and not wanting to respond because when someone, I had an attorney tell me one time when I was struggling with a difficult uh, opposing counsel. He said that one of the best pieces of advice he ever received was, you don't get mad at a clown for doing clown things because you
Mm,
expect a clown to do clown things. So when they do them, you just don't even think about it, And I think a lot of times when crazy loud feminists start yelling crazy things, it's easier to just shut it off.
yeah.
Not because of a fear that they're going to strike to the heart of something real, but because nothing that they're saying is real.
Yeah.
And why pay attention to this? But to your point, when you shut down and refuse to continue forward because of that, they're having the same impact as if the reason you were shutting down was because you were scared of them, right?
Right.
If you're avoiding the right thing because there's a crazy person in front of you, then it doesn't really matter if it's because you're scared of the crazy person or because you just don't want to deal with the crazy person.
Right.
And so it's really important to just not give them that power, because they
Yeah.
also don't care what your motivation for stepping back was, right?
Yeah.
Like they win in their mind, regardless of whether you stopped um, because they were making a good point, or you stopped because you didn't want to deal with the loud in the vocabulary. So it's really important to you know just continue walking past the clowns, because they're gonna just make more balloon animals for the next person.
That's right. Well, and Sean, I think that there are times where obviously if someone is just the emotional temperature is way too high and they are ranting and raving and they're in your face. Like, let's say you get a feminist at the abortion facility, which once in the blue moon you do. I've encountered one myself, a woman yelling at a
Yeah.
woman, right? And you just sometimes you just there's no good that's going to come of you saying something back. But most times, even when someone's heated, there's a scripture that says to pray for every opportunity in the spirit. And a lot of times I'm praying for, God, what seed can I plant here? Right? What can I leave them with? Even if it's something really simple that gets them thinking. Because when you talk to former abortion workers who come out and rant and rave at you and get off the public right of way and they turn the sprinklers on and they try to saturate you and get you off the sidewalk and all that stuff, right? Are there times to be silent? Sure. But a lot of times we say something simple, like, gosh, this is just too bad. You seem like a great person who really wants to do some good. I'm here when you're ready to leave. Right.
Yeah.
And you're just getting to the heart of the matter there. Or there was one time this one girl walked up to me at an abortion facility in Illinois, and it was the weirdest thing. They were Planned Parenthood counter protesters, and they were there protesting the 40 Days for Life prayer campaign. So this girl walks up to me and just starts spewing off, and she's in a pro Planned Parenthood shirt and gives me the most graphic depiction of rape that I've ever heard anybody say to anybody. And how dare you, my sister was raped. And I just looked at her and I said, I'm sorry you feel like you have to do this. There's healing after abortion, and I'm just here to help the women. And that's all. And she was shocked. It disarmed her. So she started back in. She did the exact same thing, almost same exact spiel. And I just looked at her and I go, I'm so sorry that you feel like you have to do this. I'm not a dangerous person. I'm just here to help people. And I want you to know that there's healing after abortion. And it shocked her so much. She stopped, left me
Yeah.
alone the rest of my shift. But do you think that she's going to remember that exchange? Oh, heck yeah.
Right.
And that's just, I think the power that we have to affect change is this is the hardest thing for me. This is a lesson that I feel like I'm still learning. For some reason, I do it better on the sidewalk than even in my own personal life, right? But we can't big surprise. But for some people, it's the opposite. Yeah, they really struggle with
I'm the
this on the
same.
sidewalk,
Yeah.
right? But we can't, you and I cannot convert people. That is not our job. That is the job of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit convicts, and that person has to respond. But we can plant seeds. We can
Yeah.
be an incredible example. And if we can just hold ourselves together and believe that God is at work, a lot of these people turn around. And it may not be today, and it may not be tomorrow, and it may not be in a month or a year or 5 years. It took Abby Johnson 6 prayer campaigns outside of her former workplace, and even having to witness an ultrasound guided abortion, which again, all those prayers had been said that, it all kind of came together at that one powerful moment where her eyes, the scales fell from her eyes and she realized what she was a part of. That's the power of God at work, but it's hard sometimes to let go when lives are on the line that day and to trust that what you are doing is powerful and enough. And so that's the hard work of being a sidewalk advocate. You go out there, you pray, you plant seeds, you invite, you encourage, you shut up for a little bit, you try again, you pray some more, you shut up for a little bit, you try again, you send the boyfriend in there, okay, let's try again, right? You pray over crying fathers, but gosh, there's just nothing more powerful. And the reason that I know how powerful it is because one of the statistics, again, just the ones that we know about, but also because you will hear years later stories that blew your mind that you did not even know were going on in the background. And those are my favorite because you'll suddenly have somebody pull the car over and say, hey, you were here on the sidewalk 6 months ago or a few years ago, and I want you to meet my son who's here because you were here, right? Or you talk to one of these abortion workers who say, you know what, when I flicked you off and I yelled at you and I did all these ugly things to you, and you have no idea the effect that you were having on me when you did, kept doing what you were doing. And so again, nothing is ever lost, and God is always at work and pursuing people. And if we can just rest in the power of prayer and love and outreach, we just have no idea, the fruit that it'll bear in the future. So that's the confidence and the hope that I think we have with what we're doing out there. Right.
I love that. And I think what you guys are doing is so important. And I'm so grateful that you had the foresight or answered the call, to God to start this ministry and to grow it because, it's hard. It's hard to grow
Yeah.
a pro-life organization.
Yeah.
It's hard to grow.
Right.
It's hard to grow a nonprofit,
Yeah.
because you're convincing people on so many different levels. You're convincing the people to help support financially. You're convincing the people to come and take action, and and it's tough. And so I know how much work it was for you to go from where you were to where you are now, and how much work you have ahead of you. And so I
Yeah.
really appreciate that conviction and that level of hard work. And I appreciate you coming and joining me today and sharing this information. How can people find you? How can people support the work that you're doing? How can everybody support Sidewalk Advocates for Life?
Yeah. Well, I just invite everybody to go to our website, sidewalkadvocates.org, and there's a path to being a part of this great work for everyone. We tell people it's start, join, give, pray. Start, join, give, pray. And a lot of times people are doing a couple of those things, right? Specifically, start or join, there may be an abortion or abortion referral facility near you that doesn't have a presence in front of it. And if so, you could be the person who's called to be a program leader, to bring our program to your community. All it takes is one yes. We give you everything that you need. You have a training package, literally can play the training in a church room or, on the big screen somewhere, right? You go through that 5-hour basic training. People get certified as sidewalk advocates. They sign a pledge of integrity. They get out to the sidewalk. and boom, miracles start happening. Trust me, like right away, people often say that they see something moving. Do you have lulls on the sidewalk? Absolutely, right? And then you can also join an existing program. So you can go to sidewalkadvocates.org/locations, or again, just go to the website and click locations, and you'll see a map of everywhere where we currently have a presence, and you can look up the one nearest you. But I just tell people, don't write it off right away. Like some of you are sitting there and you're like, oh, I'm an introvert. I don't know that I can have a conversation with a stranger like that, right? But we've got a ton of introverts with our organization. There's some people who are going to say, I'm too old for this. I'm a grandparent. And I'm like, gosh, man, my favorite person to sidewalk counsel with was Grandma Jackie in Dallas. Nobody ran over Grandma Jackie. They all listened to her,
Yeah.
um, the men, again, like we see men be very successful at this as well. So just, I say, go check it out. You don't have to sign on the dotted line at the end of the training. Just go to a training, see how you
Yeah.
feel about it, and just stay open to where God may guide you. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Lauren. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for all this information. And I appreciate you, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Sounds good. Right back at you, Sean. Thanks so much.